Moment for Arsenal fans, but that was correctly ruled out, and 2-1 it finished to Arsenal. Let's bring in Gary Neville, who of course was watching on high for us. Gary, what's your overriding feeling having watched Arsenal get through this today, but not in a straightforward manner against Chelsea?
I mean, I think from where they were, Dave, a week last Wednesday after the Wolves game, I know Mikel Arteta before the game said that it doesn't matter when the other team that you're challenging for the title plays first, but it really does. I mean, City having to sort of get their points on the board on a Saturday and then Arsenal have to follow them on a Sunday does add that pressure for Arsenal. And I think it's been a really good week for them in two games that are quite difficult. The North London derby, obviously Tottenham aren't playing well, but they still have to go there and do a job under pressure after the Wolves game. And then today was a real struggle for them. Not playing well in terms of open play and the fluidity, but getting over the line, and I think that's really important. With all the competitions that Arsenal are in, you're not going to play well every single week, but they had to win 3 points, they had to get over the line and win the game, and they've done that, and I think that counts for a lot.
Gary, the bigger picture, of course, is Arsenal winning their first Premier League title for 22 years. If they are to get there, what is it that they will be leaning on in these last 9 games, do you think?
The quality, their physical strength, the experience of the last 3 years of losing it. I mean, they surely have to sort of look upon what's happened in the last 3 years. They know this is going to be hard work. 10 more weeks of paying these Arsenal fans, watching in the crowd, watching at home sometimes when they're away from home. This is not easy. This is not going to be pleasant at times. It's going to be anxious, but they've got to enjoy the thrill of it. That's why they're here. We always, every single time we come to Arsenal, and we've done this for a number of years, and Patrick obviously played in the last title-winning team, we go over to that 2004 year that's over there halfway up across that stand and say they haven't won the league for 22 years. And they've got to try and get rid of that. And in the last 3 years, they've been up against, obviously, City and Liverpool, and it's been obviously tough for them, and they've lost out in those battles. And call upon the experiences that they've had, dig deep, just dig in like you wouldn't believe, and they're doing that. Look, they're a resilient bunch. They've got a lot of fight about them. They're good physically. I think they're a mentally strong team. I don't think they're weak. I think that a few years ago they were quite vulnerable. They were a bit immature. That's not this group that we're watching out here. I think the complication for them, Dave, is they've got 4 trophies to try and go at. And you can't throw away a Champions League. You can't throw away a Carabao Cup final. You know, you've got to go for every single trophy. So how Mikel Arteta rotates, how he uses his squad, how he stays clear of injury is going to be important.
Would you have a view on that in terms of what should be their priorities, if indeed it does come to that?
I think they've got to, in some ways, take a massive risk, or a calculated risk, if you like, in the FA Cup. That's not to disrespect the FA Cup, but I think you've got to look at that competition and say, right, I've got to trust my second 11 all the way up to the semi-final. I think the Carabao Cup final, it's a one-off game. You've got to play your best team. The Champions League, you've got to go and play your best team. And obviously the Premier League, you've got to go and play your best team. But the FA Cups, you know, they do give a little bit of respite for Mikel Arteta to take a risk, and that might be the competition that they do sort of falter in, maybe slightly. Obviously they've got Mansfield, so they'll probably get across the line in that one, but as it goes through, that'll be the one that I think might fall by the wayside.
Gary, you've been there, you've been in this position, you'll remember it very well. Of course, you went on to win multiple titles, but this first one, is it different? Is this going to be a case this evening of in this dressing room, they're going to be concerned about a performance, or is it going to be just huge relief or delight that they've got these 3 points?
No, I think they'll have delight. I don't think they'll be sat there. I mean, look, you always want performance, but it's impossible. I know they've had a week's rest, but Arsenal play nearly every 3 days and have done for such a long time now. It is impossible to play every 3 or 4 days and play at a high level from a performance perspective. It just is impossible. So getting over the line and getting games out under your belt and wins under your belt when you're actually doing that is something that's quite important. They've got that in them to be able to do it. And look, I have to say that the first title that I won was in 95, 96, and it was a challenging experience. Your legs start to get heavy towards the end. You start to read every headline. You can't escape it. The noise is constant. I'm very lucky, and we were very lucky as young lads. We had very experienced players who'd won 2 or 3 titles. The one worry, other than injuries and the sort of amount of games that they play, is that they're up against Pep Guardiola's machine, who have won titles, and they haven't got any experience in the dressing room. I mean, Gabriel Jesus has won it, but he doesn't look like the type that's going to be able to get the other players over the line on his own. So the one thing that you would say is that who is the person in that dressing room that's settling everybody down, that's composing them? We had a lot of experienced winners when we were winning it for the first time, and it is hard work, but I do think they'll get there. The experience of the last 3 or 4 years, I think, will just be enough for them.
Gary, thank you very much. That's an interesting point. We'll perhaps expand on that to here, but we'll let you go for now. Gary, thank you very much for your time this afternoon.
Hello.
A real war of attrition today. One of those games that you absolutely have to win if you want to win the title.
A proper London derby was, and we expected that because of the quality of the opposition, because the individual quality that they have, and because we played them 4 times already. So we know how good and difficult they are to play against. After we started the game so well, the first half it was very, very dominant. I think the margin, the scoreline should have been bigger, but we were 1-1. Game on, I reminded them that we were in the exactly same position against the Spurs 7 days ago in that dressing room. They said, and look what happened in the second half, so we're going to do it again, but probably we're going to have to go through some difficult patches to earn the right to win the game. And we certainly done that. We took the moment to score the second goal, and after the red card, we all expected a very different outcome in the last few minutes, but we didn't manage to control and dominate that scenario as good as we wanted. And on top of that, Chelsea did some very, very good things in that period, and we needed David to win us the game.
Alex Bixie.
Hi, Michael. A lot obviously going to be made of how good Arsenal are from corners. They got you over the line again today. Have you had to go to another level with them this season because of how much sides are focusing on that aspect of the game?
Yeah, but every team, to be fair, look where they are in terms of the amount of goals that they score, and they have more quality in their squad probably than anybody else to create. And the team and the game at the end got decided in this aspect. So we haven't scored set pieces for a few weeks now. But we scored so many in open play. Today was an option to score from this kind of situation. We've done it so well, and we conceded as well.
Amy, Athletic.
Hi, Mikel.
Hi.
I'd like to ask you about someone who doesn't always get the headlines, and that's David Raya.
Okay.
Today, it felt like, as usual, he really made some unbelievable saves. How vital is his personality, his presence, what he brings in that department?
Well, David is one of our leaders without a doubt, and he's a keeper that knows how to maintain his focus and decide a football match when you need him, because sometimes he doesn't participate at all, and then in one action you have to be there, and that's very, very difficult to do. And the save that he made in the last action, it's a cross, it's not a shot, but he ended up being an unbelievable shot, and I got the right angle, and was just, my heart almost stopped, but David's hands was there to get it back to life.
How was he afterwards? He looked like he might have got an injury at some point, and also he was quite animated at the end talking to Iñaki. Is he okay in every way?
I don't know what happened in that action. He had some niggles this week, so I don't know if it's related to that. But yeah, overall very happy.
What did you make of the overall performance? Even with 10 men, you kept it going to the end.
I think it's clear. I think it's clear where our strengths are, and I think it's clear to everyone what we need to improve on. I felt as a group, including me, we learned our lesson last week. To concede 2 goals from set plays, which ultimately has cost us the game, is really disappointing. To have another red card, again, really disappointed. They're not things that we haven't spoken about, because there is a lot of good. I don't want to be sat here saying how well we play every week without picking up the points. We need to start finding a way of playing well, which we have done in large parts of my time with the group, but we also need to pick up points very, very quickly.
The gap between the 2 goals before, I mean, it was a very quick, turnaround, wasn't it? I mean, is that down to mentality?
Sorry, the gap between...
Well, it was very quick, put 2 yellow cards, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Basically.
Yeah, it's disappointing for Pedro because he's a very, very good player, and we want him on the pitch. And up to that moment, he was actually causing Arsenal so many problems. The frustrating thing for us, not just today, but we're going to miss him against Aston Villa. But it's not just Pedro. I think as a group, me as the leader as well, we have to take more accountability for some of the decision making we're having in terms of our discipline and in terms of the moments of the goals we're not just today, the goals we're conceding. some of them are just, they're not acceptable at this level.
Peter?
Hi, Liam. Just on conceding goals from corners. Last time you were here, we saw you had 2 corners, and both times you pushed 2
Yeah.
3 players up. Why didn't you do that today?
One, they would have prepared for that themselves. They're very, very good at that. 2, when I actually analysed those corners back, they were very, very close to scoring. It's not always the outcome. Sometimes there are certain things that happen. Also, in terms of our work this week, which obviously didn't work today, we've conceded from a corner against Burnley. We worked on a certain scheme. It's the first time the lads have done it. It didn't pay off today. But we need to make sure we're better in those moments, because at the moment we're losing points, not based off our performances, but based off of set plays and discipline.
Matt? Liam, on discipline, what are you and the club doing about it, or going to do about it? I think we've asked yourself and the previous head coach about fining players before.
Yeah, fines are, you can fine players. It's not about the punishment, it's about finding the reason why. I don't think Pedro Neto today or West Fofana last week would have, in that moment, been thinking about, oh, if I get a red card, I'm going to get fined. It's a focus and a concentration thing that we need to get right. I know the record of the club is not great from the start of the season, and now it's getting bad. We had 10 games when I was in where we didn't have these issues, but we've had 2 in 2 games. So it's something deep lying that we need to get to the bottom of. The thing is, for me, if we get to the bottom of those 2 main things, we can be a very, very good team, and we can achieve all the things we want to
The
achieve.
title race just took another dramatic turn, and this time the belief is growing louder. After Arsenal's huge 2-1 win over Chelsea, the conversation isn't just about 3 points, it's about destiny. Momentum is building, confidence is rising, and suddenly the whispers of champions are getting harder to ignore. On the punditry side, Gary Neville didn't hold back. He pointed to Arsenal's resilience and control in high-pressure moments as proof that this team has matured. According to Neville, title-winning sides find ways to win even when the game becomes tense, and this felt like one of those statements. Meanwhile, Ian Wright was full of passion and belief. He highlighted the mentality shift within the squad, the hunger, the discipline, and the refusal to panic when challenged. For Wright, this isn't just good form. It's championship behavior. The 2-1 victory over Chelsea wasn't perfect, but that's what made it powerful. Arsenal had to dig deep, manage pressure, and stay composed when the stakes were sky high. Those gritty wins often define title runs more than dominant performances. At the heart of it all is Arsenal's growing belief. The squad looks united, the manager looks calm, and the fans can feel something special brewing. Every week, they're answering new questions with authority. With heavyweight voices like Neville and Wright publicly backing them, the message is clear: this isn't hype anymore. It's a serious title charge. The pressure is on, the spotlight is bright, and the dream of lifting the Premier League trophy feels closer than ever.